I look really haggard. Like, I don't know, I don't look like I'm having a good time, but I promise I'm okay. So, how about I do an update? So I've been reading Jade City. I have gotten to page 142, so I'm like a decent amount through, like maybe a quarter, because this is just under 300 pages. Yeah, it's 495 pages, so just under. So yeah, I feel like I'm like a quarter of the way through, and I'm really enjoying this. I will say, the very first thing I'm going to say is that this is not the hardest, like, intense fantasy I've read, but it's not the easiest by a considerable amount.
You're a joke and you're so dumb.
There's been a lot of world building, and I mean a lot. And something I struggle with high fantasy is that I feel like we get so much information because the authors are, you know, presenting us with this world. But I struggle to know like what's important. Like, obviously all of it's important to a degree because it's showing us the world. But when it comes to the actual plot and knowing and following along with the plot line and characters that are important and things, I never know like what I'm meant to actually take in and make sure I remember, because I always feel like I get to like a plot twist near the end and I don't get it because it's been something that's been mentioned that I didn't realize was pivotal because there's all this other information. And like, I know why it's necessary and it's actually just like genuinely fun to explore and learn about worlds, but it's always something I struggle with because I never know like, okay, but what am I meant to take in? Like, I remember when I was reading the Game of Thrones books, I was like, sorry, A Song of Ice and Fire.
One word and I hit you again.
I'm telling mother.
You meet all these characters are mentioned. And it's one of those series where like you'll get like 10 paragraphs about this side character and they're never mentioned and seen ever again. But at the time when you're reading it, you're like, so is this character important? Is this important information? I don't know. I'm struggling with that a little bit. Like, and it's like I can understand what things are when they're being said, but then like I'll forget about it and I'll jump back to it and I'm like, oh shit, so that was important. So I'm struggling with that. That's possibly something that you get better at the more like hard fantasy that you read. So yeah, the world is really interesting. So it's set in a world where Jade enhances people's abilities, and we have these people called green bones, and green bones are able to like enhance the power of Jade, and it enhances their like powers. And it's based on this island. It's pretty cool. It's like this little island. Well, actually it could be huge, I don't know, but that's the island there. Basically on this island is a lot of green bones, and then there's like other islands, countries, I don't know. There's other places which don't have them or as much. And so on this island we have a lot of these clans, and a lot of them have green bones in them, and it's kind of become this world where they are very powerful and they're not allowed to be like the rulers, but they have like the different like sanctions within the like clans. I'll put a picture here of like the different like levels within the clans, which is really interesting, and that's a lot of what we've been exploring. Different clans, the different people in the different roles within these different clans, but we've mainly got like, I feel like 2. The main one we're following, the oldest son of these 3 siblings has just become like the leader. Their father died and the grandfather's becoming, you know, elderly, and so he has taken over, but he's being undermined and belittled by his grandfather and a lot of people because, you know, he's doing things differently as a young generation. He's basically in this position, and the book starts with there's like this person who's in charge of a lot of the like mining and digging of Jade. I don't know if it's like a legal system or not, because I know it's very illegal for a lot of people to get Jade. It's very police, so I can't, again, no, a lot of this is going over my head, but it's kind of like that person has been murdered that was in charge of it, and they are trying to discover who did the murdering and who's now in charge, and they think it's someone part of this clan who's kind of their like rival in a way. Basically, we have found out that clan wants to sell this thing, and this thing is something that enables people that aren't green bones to use Jade without like really bad ramifications, because a lot of the time it can happen to green bones, but especially people that aren't green bones, they'll go like mad from the Jade and become very possessive and obsessed with it. It can have like a lot of different side effects from using it, and so this, I can't remember what it's called, but there's this thing that they can use to enable them to use it like a green bone, and they are basically illegally trying to sell it, and they're wanting to sell it because they believe that people that aren't greenbones are going to try and get it anyway. So like, we may as well police it and get money from it anyway. And so it's kind of this, I guess, political plotline with these two clans, and I feel like it's going to explode. Yeah, it's definitely more of a like complex political machination kind of plot, which I really enjoy, even though like, again, some of it goes over my head. But I feel like I've got the gist of it, which is what's important. Even if I don't get every little bit, I still get the main crux of the story so I can follow along. I also feel like I'm getting the characters pretty well, which is fun. I really like some of the characters. I actually really like the main character, the older brother who's the leader. He's very like level-headed, and he's struggling because I would say he's quite a like sympathetic or empathetic person, and so he really cares about people. Like the opening scene, they're like, you should have basically murdered this person for trying to steal Jade. And he doesn't want to do that because he's like, even if the chances are very, very low of this person going away and not attempting to do this again, I still don't want to kill them. I want to give them a chance. A lot of people like don't believe in him and his leadership because of that. So it's definitely like this interesting plotline that we've got going on with him, because he's like, yeah, a good person. He's very level-headed. I'm sure he's very flawed, and we'll explore that because normally characters in these kind of books are. Yeah, but like all of the three siblings are really interesting. They've also got this like adoptive cousin who is coming into the plot as well, and he's biracial, and he's really interesting. He's also gay, so you know.
I love you.
Like the sister has been away, and she's just come back because the older brother wrote a letter to her being like, our grandfather's getting sick, like you probably want to come home, because she was like the favorite child. And then we've got the other brother who is a mess, so he's probably more on my level. Like if I related to any of them, it would probably be him. This 140 pages has mainly been setting up those characters, the different clans, the history of the world, and the plot progression has been pretty slow. I think it's just written in a really fun way where the characterization's really good. So like everything we're exploring could be really dry, but it's written in the characters' heads, like with their distinct voices. This has more character personality within it, so it makes it a little bit more fun to explore. Like you're getting to know the characters through the way that they're telling us about the history of the world and showing us things. So I think that that's really fun. So it makes it a little bit more interesting because you're learning about the characters as well. And I'm a very character-driven reader, so yeah, I think that's why I'm still enjoying this, because even though it's very much focused on the plot and the world building, the characters are striking and I'm intrigued about them. So it's giving me enough to be interested in the book. Yeah, I'm gonna keep reading and I'll update you, but so far so good, despite being a dumbass. Like it's like I can follow along enough to know what's going on, or I'm just convincing myself. Who knows
I need a drink.
I just set up to do a reading update, but I actually don't have a lot to say. Read more of Jade City. I'm on page 254 and I'm still really enjoying it. It might get a 4 stars, I'm not sure. I feel like the ending's gonna be really epic. I feel like this has really been setting up the world and characters, which I feel like a lot of high fantasy, the first books often are, and then they pick up. But we've just gotten this bombshell of a plot twist, like something's been revealed, and that is going to change the game. And I'm happy that I'm following along with this story enough to have picked up on it.
It's the bare minimum, but you did it.
But I was like, oh shit, that's not good. Like even my dumb ass can tell that that's not good. That's how bad this is. Like, yeah, it's definitely got me a little bit more intrigued, but I was still intrigued anyway. And I was reading this on sprints yesterday with Zoe, and I was like, I feel like I had a moment where I was really just paying attention to the characters, because I feel like for the most part I've been so focused on, I need to understand this book, what is going on, what's important, like trying to pay attention to that. And so I just focused on the characters for a little bit, and I realized something really cool. We've got these 3 siblings, and we've got the head who's the calm, collected leader. But the 2 younger siblings are fascinating, because we've got a sister and we've got a brother. And the sister is the more competitive, serious, broody one. And the guy who is like the big, powerful, like fighter warrior is an emotional, sensitive little mess. And I love it. And I didn't really pick up on it because I knew he was emotional. But there was just this scene where they were having like a fight because he has this idea of they were all going to have these roles in this family. Like obviously there was the leader and he was the warrior, and the position they wanted for her was like the weatherman. So it's kind of like the second-hand man, like she helps with the scheming and stuff. And he really wanted her to have that position, whereas the older brother's like, you know, if she doesn't want to do it, that's her path in life, you know. Whereas the younger brother, who's Hilo is like, no, I had this vision. We are gonna be the 3 siblings, the head of this family, in the 3 head positions, and that's how it's gonna be. And she doesn't want anything really to do with her family. Like, she doesn't use Jade anymore. She's going off and finding other things to do. She did get married to someone that they didn't approve of, but she has since come back. And he is just livid, and he's so emotional. He's like, you didn't even try with the family. And I'm just like, oh my god. I love that it's like the brother's the sensitive, emotional one in his feelings, and she's the like broody, competitive one. I love it. I actually really love it. I feel like something really bad's gonna happen there, and I don't want it to, but yeah. I've heard this series is really sad, so I feel like that's one of the things that's gonna end well.
12 seconds later.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you.
Well, I have got to say, this is one of the most shocking books I've ever read. Like, I've read some books that have been really shocking, but this is right up there. This was, oh my god. Not long after I last updated you, something major happened that I just did not see coming, and I was like, what the fuck? So, I kind of want to talk about it, so I might do a spoiler section near the end, because I really want to talk about it, but I'll just talk about my overall thoughts without spoiling, but dear lord. Whoa. So I ended up really liking this. I think it was definitely a very foundational, especially the first half. The second half was really much more action-packed. It's definitely not as fast-paced and action-packed as I thought it was going to be going in. I don't know if the last 2 books are. I feel like shit is absolutely going to hit the fan in those 2 books. Like, this is set up for a whirlwind of a story. I think it's such a clever story. I think it's just a little bit challenging to get to that halfway point where the big shocking thing happens and then things just go crazy. But yeah, there was just so much emotion with the characters, and the plot was so clever. Like, oh my god, I'm so excited for the next 2 books. I think they're going to be absolutely amazing. Like, again, the plot in this is so good. It's so clever. I just love when I read these high fantasies and the plot is just clever. Like, how did this lady come up with this? I do not know. And how she's got all this information in her brain. I can barely keep up with, like, the world we're in now. How does she keep up with an entire world that she's created with this much detail? Literally author goals here, okay? I don't know, but like, there's not really much else I can say without spoilers. Like, I think I've really said everything I wanted to say throughout the vlog. So, do I think it's worth the hype? Yes, I think it's really good. I think that the next 2 books will be better. I did give this 4 stars, so 4 stars is still really, really good. But I think that, like, this has a lot of entertainment value, so I feel like it would appeal to a larger audience than some more intense, like, what's the word, like, stale? I feel like that's not the word, but you know what I mean? Like,
I really have no idea what you are talking about now.
Fantasies that are a little bit more heavy-handed on plot and world-building than this. I think this still had very strong characters and plot, that it didn't get too bogged down. It wasn't too dry. That's the word, dry. Fuck yeah, I got it. Yeah, and I think that the characters are really relatable and entertaining, and there is an element to the plot that I think is really good, but it's part of the spoiler, so I can't say. But I think that that adds a layer of, like, uncertainty with the rest of the series, and the second half of the book, you just didn't know what was going to happen, and I binged basically the second half because I was just like, what is happening? I have no certainty at all right now. Like, anything could happen. So when people say this is sad, I feel like they're being legit, because she does not hold back. I'm very excited to continue on with this, and I gave it 4 stars. I really liked it. That is going to be the vlog for people that haven't read it. Thank you for being here. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you're going to pick this up. And now for the people that have read it, I'm now going to be talking about spoilers. So please go away if you haven't read this book.
Get the fuck out.
That's your last warning. Okay, I'm now talking spoilers.
Oh, spoilers!
What the fuck? Okay, so, like, why? As soon as I was like, oh, I think Lan's my favorite character, I just should have known the bitch was gonna die. But it was so clever because it set up so much. I love that it was just like pretty much an accident. I love that it was kind of the overdose that killed him in a way. The pressures of the job, but also because it was that guy that he had let go at the start, it was kind of like he was too kind for the job. He was too forgiving. He wasn't cutthroat enough. And it was his, in a way, demise, which I just think is so clever and symbolic. Oh my God. And like how it was like he was the stable structure of this family. He was how they were going to get through everything. He was basically raised to have this position. And then he all of a sudden is dead. And you've learned throughout the whole book how the other siblings are not capable of having this job. And you've got to see Hilo step up when we know he's very emotional. We know he's chaotic. We know that he lets his emotions get the better of him. So it's like, how is he going to do it? And that layer of we don't have that certainty anymore is when the story begins, in my opinion. That's when it's like, holy shit, there's a story here. Because at the start, it was so chilled. We had that faith in Lan. We had that, I guess, like reassurance that everything would be okay. And I really liked his character, but after he died, I realized he was holding the story back a lot because we did have that faith and comfort within the story because we knew that he was what was holding everything together. Like, there was no story with him as much, but as soon as he died, you were like, holy shit, how is this war going to play out? Because you kind of could see in a way how it was going to play out with him. I still really would have liked to have seen him play it out. I think that he is a really compelling, interesting character, and it is very sad to have lost his character. Having Hilo as the leader is way more interesting of a story because you don't have that faith in him. You don't have that reassurance. Like, you want to trust him, but the book has proven so much that he may not be up for the job. And it's also really nice seeing that despite that, he is stepping up and doing his best, and seeing him stand up the way that he has been so good. But it's like he and his brother have both been flawed in the position. Like, Lan was too kind, Hilo's too emotional, but they're saying how Shay wouldn't be able to do the job as well. And it's just so interesting. And it's really cool seeing Shay now step up as well. They're both like, holy shit, we relied so heavily on our brother, and now that he is gone, we have to step up. And again, that we don't have that security with them. So it just makes this really chaotic, interesting story. And that's why I'm so excited to see how it's going to play out. I'm also so intrigued to see what's going to happen with Andon. Because his storyline took such a weird turn. And the ending was so emotional. So I'm just like, what is going to happen with him? Like, his storyline and relationship with Jade is going to be really interesting. And it's interesting how that was, in a way, the downfall of, you know, Lan, was that he was dying. You know, he couldn't cope with the responsibilities and the heaviness of Jade, and so he was relying on this drug and he overdosed, and that's his demise. So I'm so excited to see how it's going to play out. Like, I think the next two books are going to be even better. I think that this was definitely a setup, and oh my god, thank you for being here. I really hope that you enjoyed. And let me know in the comments your thoughts on the spoiler without putting what the spoiler is. I'd absolutely love to know. Or just message me. I'm on Instagram and Twitter. They're linked down below. But yeah, thank you for being here. I really hope that you enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you in another video very soon. But until then, bye.